Why don't you tell us who you are?
Okay, Rick Schmidt, and I taught at Cabrillo High School for way too long. Started about 1968, and I graduated finally in 2001. And I now teach Ellen Hancock English 101 part-time. And that has allowed me to do what I've always wanted to do, and that is writing.
That's great. So how long have you been writing?
Actually, well, aside from the short stories and stuff, Hermanos came out in 2004. And basically that's a result of being able to say, I don't have to teach full-time anymore. And I taught AP English and was chairman of the AP program, and it took a lot of time. And I can tell you exactly, it was this time of year, in 2000, I walked across the campus and I thought, this has got to stop. I spend every weekend grading papers.
Right.
And I thought, this is not a life anymore.
Right.
So I changed it up a little bit.
Right. So do you have a writing style? What kind of stories attract you?
In terms of stories, I was afraid we were going to ask this. I haven't a clue. In other words, if you look at the array there, other than this one and Out of Bodie, and they both deal with the eastern side of the Sierra.
Okay.
But we spend a lot of time up there in the summertime, so I'm really familiar with it. And we even have a dog named Bodie. And that's a ghost town up north of Bishop and by Mungo Lake. And other than that, I can't tell you what prompts it. I'm just publishing one right now, which we'll talk about, and it's got to do with a young soldier who comes back from Iraq with PTSD. And it's what happened to him in battle, which, by the way, was a short story. And then how it's called Battlegrounds, and so that's the first battleground. The second battleground is when he's hospitalized with PTSD, and as his intern says, Jody, you're simply badly miswired. So the second part is getting him stable again.
Wow.
So and that was kind of interesting. I started that about a year and a half ago, and it took about that long to get it together.
Right.
But anyway, in terms of Agnes, that's easy. I know exactly what happened. First off, I had known about Agnes since 1969 when we first moved here.
Okay.
It's one of the first stories you hear that the kids are telling you all about. Have you been up Paris Grade? Well, yes, but I've been up there at night. Well, no. Well, you have to go up there at night, and we'll take you up there. We'll sit up there with you, but we'll wait for her to show up. And that was just kind of the reigning story. And and I heard it. And there was even other stories about girls that go up there and then they come back and have a little sleepover party, and they talk to themselves in the mirror to see if they could have Agnes show up in the mirror. Now, I'm just telling you the stories. I'm not telling you anything about whether this is real or anything else. It's just, but anyway, so Agnes, had been around, and I can't remember, but I think someone said, have you seen her on the internet? And I thought, well, no, but I never looked on it either, So I thought, okay. So I went to the internet and I found a picture of her. And I thought, okay, this is all wrong. I mean, looks like she's going to a tea party in about 1815, with that kind of a costume, hair piled up on her head. And I thought, Lompoc didn't even have white people in 1815, let alone Agnes.
Right.
And so I kind of just messed around with it and thought about it, and then thought, okay, I can tell her story.
Well, first, can you tell us what the legend as you know it is?
Yeah, and it basically is incorporated as the end of this, that she is coming back for whatever reason. I gave her a reason here. She's coming back from Santa Maria, and she takes Harris Grade Road. Harris Grade, and comes down, and she has some sort of trouble with her car. And she gets out of her car and is holding her baby, and another car comes around one of the curves there and hits her. She loses the child, and she is killed in the process. So she is up there looking for her kid. That's not very nice, her child, her whatever. And the story is that she will stop cars coming over Harris Grade and say, "Would you help me find my baby?" And that's the story over and over. And the interesting thing is that, you know, I know I don't drive Harris Grade at night. Not because I believe it, but I think because I don't disbelieve it. But I was giving a book talk about 2 years ago now to the it was in Vandenberg Village Library, and there was about 50 people there, I think. And one of the women in the front row, you know, I was talking about Agnes. I don't even think I said, has anyone ever seen her, but I might have said something like that. And she raised her hand and she said, "I have seen Agnes." And this was a woman who was probably, maybe, I'm guessing, 30. I mean, not some, you know, kid, not some teenager.
Right.
And so I said, "What was she wearing?" And she said she was wearing a white blouse and dark skirt. And that's the reigning description. You know, over and over again you hear people say that they've seen her.
Right.
Say she's wearing a white blouse and this dark skirt.
Have you heard of any other accounts? Have you yourself gone looking for it?
No. And the other side of it is, no, I won't. So, you know, I don't know. That's just the way the story seems to come down.
Right.
And,
Obviously something about her story connected with you.
oh, it did. I think mostly what connected with me was, I'd heard it over and over, but also seeing this picture on the, you know, on the internet of this, because it was she was among several ghosts. One of the other one was in the big yellow house on 101 down in Santa Barbara,
Okay.
south Santa Barbara. But seeing that picture, you know, and all I could think of was, wait a minute, this is way off.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, I'll just tell her story. And so that's kind of where it started, you know. And I had to have some sort of rationale. I don't know if have you read it yet?
Yeah, I've read most of it.
Okay, and so I think one of the interesting things is that people have said to me, and I might even say this on the phone. No, I don't think I did. People have said to me, "How did you know all this?"
Right.
You know, and like a couple of times I've said, "Dude, it's a novel. It's
Right.
fiction.
Right.
I'm allowed to make whatever up I want."
Right. Well, one, you've given her a life. You've given her love.
That's-
You've given her.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make her real enough so that when you come to the end, you know, there is some reason why she still kind of exists
Yeah.
for people. But it was also kind of fun to write.
Right.
Because there was the only kind of research that I had to do was making sure that Camp Cook, Vandenberg, was up and running, and that the new highway was there by 1941.
Right.
And beyond that, it was all a matter of just, okay, let's go forward.
Right, because obviously you set your Agnes, or your version of Agnes, years later than
Oh, yeah.
the picture that everybody has.
Yeah.
What about that time period that attracted you? Why do you think that she in that story would fit?
Gee, Logan, I don't think I can even come close to giving a rational answer. I can't. In fact, I don't think anyone has ever even asked me that before. To put it into another thing. I'll tell you one thing that, because it was written kind of piecemeal,
Okay.
and I had a lot of fun with it, by the way, in the process of that. You should talk about writing. But I don't know if you got that far, but toward the end, Eddie and Aggie meet up with Eddie's buddy up at Fort Ord and so forth.
Okay, yeah.
And Alvin Jode, and that's that's deliberate because I wanted something in there, and I thought, well, why not bring the Jode family, because they then, as in Grapes of Wrath, they ended up in Bakersfield in that area,
Right.
farming, and so that Al Jode's kid is now in the army, and so that kind of amused me. Maybe I got to laugh a little bit about that.
That's great. So, do you have any message or words of wisdom do you want to give to any other writers coming up?
Yeah, right. Well, no. Previous to that, read. Because I'm going to speak to a high school AP class, as a matter of fact, up in Rockland up by Sacramento.
Oh.
My granddaughter asked me about a week ago if I'd come and talk to them, and that's the first thing I'm going to tell them is you have to read. And I think that if my parents ever did me a favor, it was they shoved believe it or not, a comic book in my face, because that's where I learned to read.
Oh, wow.
My aunt gave my brother and I annual subscriptions to Donald Duck, and I can't remember what they were, but anyway, several of them. And so we just read it, and and I don't even remember learning to read, but I was reading before I got to school.
Wow.
So, and I've never quit reading. So that's the first thing. Now, writing. I told you I did this piecemeal. Let's go to Hermanos for a minute.
Okay.
Because that starts out with an incident that I learned about. Well, I've known about it since I was a surfer, but it starts out with a kid I had in Hancock who was surfing up in Santa Cruz area, Capitola, and he and his buddy were taken off the water by the locals, and they were taken back to their truck. And one of the local surfers had a knife and said, "If you show up again, we'll cut your tires." And he was telling me about this, and he was kind of laughing, but he says it really wasn't funny at the time because we were kind of scared.
Right.
And so I thought, I could handle that. And I got through about maybe 6 or 7 chapters of it, and I kept having this kind of nagging feeling, and I finally realized that, I don't like the way it begins, because it begins with an incident on the beach. And so I did something which I'm really very proud of. Some people would say, you cheated. No, I didn't. What I did was I went back and I reread, because I knew what I wanted to do. I reread John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. And that first chapter doesn't deal with his story at all. It deals with the transition of the Salinas Valley. And so basically the first chapter of this does that kind of transition. It tells us where Lompoc Valley started, or was, although it isn't the Lompoc Valley here, but where it started and how it has suddenly been transformed, because it's no longer a community where the whites are here and the browns are here, but that the whites are here, but somehow the browns are intermixing with them. And I wanted that kind of as a way, because this has to do with 2 high school surfers, one white and one brown. And those are the Hermanos.
Oh, right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So it feels like you really pull inspiration from the people around you, or
I
the
do.
things around you.
Yeah, especially things around me. Toby in 5 Acts is obviously 5 short stories, and 3 of them are basically incidents that occurred in my own life. And I wasn't, the first one was the train station, and I wasn't really involved. No, the first one is out across the border thing. I know it is. Come on, Schmidt. Yeah, across the border. And that has to do with a friend, a fellow soldier of mine. I wasn't allowed in Berlin, but he was, and he and his buddy went to Berlin on leave. and they met an East German kid who was drinking at a bar. At that time, you could cross from East Germany to East Berlin to West Berlin without too much of a problem. And what the upshot was, what happened was that my central character crossed the border again with his buddy, except this time he's wearing two uniforms. And they meet the German kid again. The German kid takes off his uniform, or takes off his clothes, puts on the uniform, and they both come out and cross the border. And they get caught, but not till they're arrested or anything by these German police. But that actually happened. And so a lot of the time, yeah, something comes up that you already know a little bit about. The last one has to do with, again, when I was in Germany, I went on leave to Paris to visit my buddy, and I was an intelligence analyst in Heidelberg, in headquarters, and one of the old men I worked for said, well, I'm going to be in Paris at a conference. Can you take you up, bring you home, save you a train? I said, sure. So I met him, and he brought me home. But in the process, he did this kind of extraordinary thing. He went through northeastern France, and he stopped on this hillside. And it was a beautiful spring day with this beautiful, all these flowers in this greenery. He said, I want to show you something. So we got out, we walked up to the top of the hill, and he said, right over the other side is the Maginot Line. He says, we were stationed here. And he said, you wouldn't believe it now, but this field is filled with pockmarks, exploded artillery.
Right.
And so he told me all about that. And that's another thing that kind of sticks in your head, and you think, dang. So that's part of it. And, a friend of mine who writes, I don't see him too much anymore, but he got a little irritated with me because he wanted to know how I did all this. He writes mostly nonfiction. And he says, why don't you bring in your outline one of these times? And I looked at him and I said, John, I don't have an outline.
Right.
I just start and I start writing. And he says, I says, if I have to go back, I go back and insert things.
Right.
But I don't outline. I don't know where I'm going to be. For example, well, in this one, the PTSD one, toward the end, I think it's about 250 typewritten pages, something like that. But toward the end, I knew exactly how it was going to end it. But I didn't know that until I got to about page 200.
So it's a more organic process.
It is, and I know that if you told me I had to outline something, I would say, I don't think so.
That's great.